The Galactic Council had gathered once again in their shining hall above the planet Virelion Prime. The chamber floated in orbit, surrounded by the cold glow of distant stars. Inside, voices echoed, dozens of alien delegates shouting, arguing, blaming. And all of them spoke about one race: humans. For years, humanity had spread faster than anyone expected. They were newcomers to the stars, fragile compared to the great empires of the galaxy. Yet somehow they survived every war, every blockade, every warning. The elder races had called them reckless, unpredictable, and far too dangerous to be allowed freedom among the stars. Now the Council had decided something had to be done about the humans. Councillor Vornak of the Qatari stood and slammed his claws on the glowing table. "They are spreading too fast! They ignore every treaty. They colonize worlds without permission. If we do not stop them now, they will consume everything." A long-scaled creature from the Toran Empire hissed softly. "They are still weak. Let them grow. In a few centuries, they will destroy themselves." Another voice, as mechanical and cold, replied, "You underestimate them. I have studied their wars. They do not break under pressure. They adapt." The hall fell into uneasy silence. The council members shifted uncomfortably, their eyes glowing with suspicion. They did not like to admit it, but they were afraid. On a screen floating in the center of the hall, images appeared. Human ships near Jupiter, building something vast. Massive frames of black metal drifting in orbit, surrounded by energy signatures that made no sense. The readings were unstable, impossible. "What is that?" someone whispered. "Mining platforms, perhaps? Or weapons?" No one could answer. The data was corrupted every time their probes got too close. Some ships simply vanished from the scanners. The scientists called it interference. The soldiers called it a warning. From a corner of the chamber, a quiet voice spoke. The oldest member of the council, a creature with silver eyes and skin like glass. "I have seen this before," it said slowly. "In every rising empire, there comes a day when silence means doom. When the prey no longer runs, but hides." The others looked uneasy. Outside the great window of the hall, stars burned peacefully. But every one of them felt something shift, as if space itself was holding its breath. What none of them knew was that humanity was listening. Far beyond their reach, near the dark edge of a dead star, a hidden fleet waited in silence. Hundreds of ships floated without power signatures, dark and invisible. Each one carried a single symbol, the blue circle of Earth. Inside one of those ships, a human officer watched the Council's broadcast in silence. The glowing image of alien faces reflected in her eyes. Commander Lyra Holden stood straight, her voice calm. "They're planning to move against us," said her lieutenant. "Should we respond?" Lyra shook her head. "Not yet. Let them talk. They still think we are small." In the corner of the bridge, a massive dark sphere pulsed slowly, a reactor made of unknown energy. It was the heart of the first dark matter engine. Every few seconds, light curved around it in strange ways, as if reality itself was bending. A young technician whispered, "Ma'am, if this works, it will change everything." Lyra's voice was steady. "If it works, they will never threaten Earth again." The technician hesitated. "And if it fails?" Lyra looked out into the dark, where the dead star flickered weakly. "Then no one will be left to remember our names." Back in the council chamber, the delegates continued their debate. None of them noticed the faint static creeping into their transmissions. None of them realized that every word they spoke was being recorded, not by their own systems, but by something else. A strange pulse ran through the network. A signal, almost like a heartbeat. Then, just as quickly, it stopped. An alien technician frowned at the readings. "Strange. We're detecting a shadow, but it's not from any planet." The council's leader turned sharply. "A shadow? In open space?" "Yes, sir. It's moving, but we can't see what it is." The readings flickered again, rising, then vanishing. "Could it be human ships?" someone asked. The technician hesitated. "If it is, then they have built something the galaxy has never seen before." The council chamber fell completely silent. No one spoke. Even the machines seemed to hold their breath. And somewhere in the deep dark between stars, a human voice whispered through the void, "We hear you." The signal lasted only a second, but it froze the entire council. Every translator paused. Every system shut down. The message was clear. Humanity was listening. And they were no longer hiding. That night, for the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council adjourned without a conclusion, and in the cold quiet of space, beyond all sensors and light, the human fleet waited, silent, unseen, and ready. It was the day before silence. On Earth, the night skies glowed brighter than ever before, not from city lights, but from construction ships, drones, and massive orbital stations working day and night. Humanity was building something new, something no other race in the galaxy could even imagine. Every nation, once divided by greed and war, now worked under a single flag. The United Terran Alliance. Old enemies shared the same labs, and rivals became partners. Scientists from across the planet gathered in secret facilities under a single name, Project Eclipse. The project was led by Dr. Ilara Voss, a quiet woman with sharp eyes and a mind sharper than any machine. She stood in the heart of the main laboratory, deep beneath the frozen plains of Antarctica. Around her, engineers and researchers worked on a black sphere that floated in mid-air, humming softly. It was not metal nor energy. It was both and neither. A young engineer watched it nervously. "It's alive," he whispered. Dr. Voss didn't look up. "No," she said. "It's awake." The sphere pulsed once, and every light in the lab flickered. Alarms sounded, and power readings spiked beyond their limits. Technicians shouted, but Ilara stayed calm. She pressed a small device, and the sphere slowly dimmed, returning to its quiet hum. "Run the numbers again," she ordered. "If the calculations hold, we've just done what no one has ever done before." Another scientist frowned. "You mean—" "Yes," she said softly. "We have bent space itself." The room fell silent. For a moment, everyone just stared at her. Then one of the engineers laughed nervously. "Do you realize what that means, Doctor?" Ilara turned toward the observation window, where snowstorms raged outside. "It means the universe will never look the same again." Far above Earth, the orbital shipyards glimmered in darkness. Hundreds of construction drones swarmed around skeletons of enormous vessels. They were unlike any ship humanity had ever built, sleek, black, and shaped like the void itself. No thrusters, no heat trails, just empty, perfect shadows. Commander Lyra Holden walked through the control deck of the shipyard station, her boots echoing against the metal floor. She had been chosen to lead the first fleet that would carry the new engines, the Dark Matter Fleet. "Report," she said. An officer handed her a tablet. "6 ships completed, Commander. 4 more will be ready in 3 days. But we have a problem." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "What kind of problem?" "Our power cores can't be tracked on standard scanners. They vanish. Even our own sensors can't read them for long. It's like the ships don't exist." Lyra stared at the holographic image of the fleet. Each ship shimmered faintly before disappearing from the display. She smiled slightly. "Good, that means it's working." The officer frowned. "You think the Council suspects anything?" Lyra turned away. "Let them think what they want. They call us reckless, primitive, but they've forgotten something." She paused, her eyes hard. "Primitive species build with fear. Humanity builds with purpose." In orbit, one of the ships, HMS Horizon, powered its core for the first time. The dark matter reactor began to spin, slower at first, then faster, until its surface shone like a black sun. Space around it warped and twisted, bending light and time. The ship's captain, Admiral Reyes, stood in awe as the readings came in. "We're pulling energy directly from the void," said the engineer, barely believing his own words. "No fuel," Reyes whispered. "No limits." The ship disappeared from the scanners for 3 whole minutes. Every satellite lost contact. Then, without warning, it reappeared, exactly where it had been, as if nothing happened. "Where did we go?" the engineer asked. Reyes smiled quietly. "Everywhere." Meanwhile, far away in the stars, the Galactic Council was watching. Their spies had reported strange signals near Earth, but nothing clear. Every attempt to scan the solar system ended the same way, with silence. Their machines stopped working, their probes lost, their ships blinded. Councillor Vornak slammed his claws against the table. "They are hiding something." "I can feel it," another delegate sighed. "You always feel something." "Perhaps the humans simply learned to jam our sensors." Vornak leaned closer, his eyes glowing. "No, this is different. They are doing something the galaxy has forbidden for thousands of years." The others laughed, but their voices carried unease. The oldest among them murmured, "If they have touched the darkness between stars, then they have touched the power of gods." The chamber fell silent. Back on Earth, Dr. Ilara stood alone in her lab, staring at the dark sphere. She reached out and touched the cold surface. For a moment it rippled like water. Her assistant asked quietly, "Doctor, are we sure about this? If we keep pushing, there's no turning back." Ilara smiled faintly. "That's exactly why we must push forward. We were never meant to live in cages built by alien laws. We were meant to explore." She turned to the control panel. "Begin the next phase." The assistant hesitated. "What should I log this as?" Ilara looked at the sphere one last time and whispered, "The birth of the impossible." In that moment, deep under Antarctica, the dark matter engine roared to life. Across the sky, lights flickered and satellites fell silent. For one heartbeat, the entire planet trembled, and in the vast emptiness beyond the stars, something ancient stirred, something that had been asleep for a very long time. Humanity had taken its first step into the shadows of creation. The universe would never be the same again. Across the galaxy, silence began to spread, not peace but fear. It started small. A Toran patrol ship failed to report from the rim. Then a week later, a Zirath exploration fleet vanished while passing near a dead system. No debris, no signals, just nothing. At first, the Galactic Council dismissed the disappearances as technical problems or cosmic storms. But soon, entire sectors went dark. Ships that entered certain zones simply never returned. Even their black box transmissions, those that were supposed to survive anything, were gone. Something was swallowing the stars. In the Council's high chamber, the atmosphere was tense. Holograms of missing fleets hovered in the air. Hundreds of glowing dots blinked out one by one. Councillor Vornak stood, his voice sharp. "You see? I warned you. This is not nature. This is war." The silver-eyed elder turned slowly. "And who, Vornak, would dare wage war on the entire galaxy?" Vornak's claws tapped the table. "Humans, it has to be them. They have built something terrible, something that hides in the dark." Laughter echoed around the room, but it was weak, nervous. Another delegate said, "Humans, impossible. Their technology is centuries behind ours." Vornak leaned forward. "Then explain the readings. Explain how our ships disappear near their systems. Explain the strange distortions in space." For a moment, no one spoke. Then the elder raised a trembling hand and turned to the projection. Increase magnification. The hologram zoomed in, focusing on a single region, the dark edge of human space. Static filled the air, then a faint pulse appeared, repeating slowly. One of the analysts frowned. "That's a signal. From whom?" The analyst's face turned pale. "From humans, sir. It says—" He hesitated. "What does it say?" demanded the elder. The analyst swallowed. "It says we are ready." Across the stars, alien empires began to whisper. Fleets were recalled, trade routes shut down. Even the boldest explorers turned away from human space, but humans said nothing. No official statements, no broadcasts. Earth had gone silent. Their colonies too. Communication signals were blocked or distorted. It was as if humanity had vanished behind an invisible curtain. Yet deep inside that silence, they were still working. In orbit around the moon, Commander Lyra Holden stood on the bridge of HMS Horizon, staring at the stars. The dark matter fleet was nearly complete. Hundreds of ships, each one capable of bending space itself. Her communications officer approached. "Commander, we intercepted a council transmission. They're talking about us." Lyra didn't look away. "Let them talk. They think we're responsible for the disappearances." "We are," she said quietly. The officer froze. "You mean those ships—" They came too close. They found what wasn't theirs to find. Lyra's eyes were cold, not cruel, just certain. "We gave them a warning months ago." "They didn't listen." The officer nodded slowly, uneasy. "The council will retaliate soon." Lyra smiled faintly. "Then we'll show them what silence truly means." On Earth, Dr. Ilara Voss was watching her creation evolve. The second dark matter engine pulsed quietly beneath Antarctica, sending invisible waves across the planet. Birds flew in strange patterns. Compasses spun without control. The night sky flickered like broken glass. Her assistant entered the lab. "Doctor, the fleet reports full readiness, but the Council is mobilizing a task force, a large one. They plan to enter our system within 3 days." Ilara didn't look away from the reactor. 3 days, then. That's enough time. Enough time for what? She smiled softly. "For the universe to change its mind about us. Meanwhile, in deep space, the Council's scout fleet approached the edge of Sol system. Thousands of ships glided silently through the void. Their commanders were cautious, their weapons armed. The lead ship sent out a transmission. "This is the Galactic Council. We come to investigate reports of forbidden weapon technology." Humans respond, no reply. Only static. They tried again. Nothing. Then, without warning, one of the smaller ships vanished from their formation. No explosion, no trace. Just gone. Panic spread across the fleet. What happened to Delta Wing? Unknown. Sensors show distortion. Something's bending space around us. The commander's voice trembled. "Retreat! Pull back!" The signal cut off mid-sentence. Every ship's screen flickered once. And in that flicker, for a fraction of a second, they saw it. A shape vast and black, darker than space itself. A ship silent and cold watching them. Then the sensors died. Back in the council chamber, the last transmission played before a silent crowd. The screen showed only static, then a faint voice, broken, distorted, and human. "Do not enter the dark," then silence. The entire chamber froze. Some whispered prayers. Others refused to believe what they heard. Councillor Vornak's voice shook. "They warned us. They're not hiding anymore." The silver-eyed elder looked at the empty stars. "No," he said softly. "They are waiting." In the shadow of the dead star, the human fleet drifted in perfect stillness. No lights, no signals, only the hum of their dark matter cores. Commander Lyra watched as her ships aligned, one by one, forming a vast pattern that covered the void. "Send the message," she said. Her officer hesitated. "What message, ma'am?" Lyra looked toward the stars, her expression unreadable. "The truth," she said. "Let them know we have arrived." A single pulse of dark energy rippled through space, silent, invisible, unstoppable. Every council sensor across the galaxy flickered, failed, and then died. In that moment, billions of beings looked up from their worlds and saw something they had never seen before. The stars dimmed, and for the first time, the galaxy whispered one word in fear: humanity. The Galactic Council could no longer ignore the truth. Humanity had gone silent, but the silence felt alive. Their probes vanished, their fleets disappeared, and now their sensors across 100 systems had gone blind. The Council met in emergency session. The great hall of Verelion Prime flickered with unstable lights. Panic filled the air like smoke. Councillor Vornak slammed his clawed hand on the table. "Enough waiting. We will send a full armada to Earth. They will answer for this." The silver-eyed elder spoke softly. "And if they do not answer?" Vornak's voice hissed like a blade. "Then we will make them." A moment later, the council voted. The largest fleet in galactic history was assembled. Over 50,000 ships from every major empire. Titans, dreadnoughts, and cruisers filled the dark like a wall of steel. Their mission was simple: reach Earth and demand submission. They believed they were going to end a rebellion. Instead, they were marching into history. 3 days later, the fleet arrived at the edge of Sol system. The commanders waited for Earth to respond to their hails. Nothing came. The void was empty. Too empty. "Scanners online," said an officer. "Detecting something strange. Distortion around the outer system." The commander frowned. "Show me." The screen flickered. For a moment, space seemed normal. Then the stars bent, as if reality itself was folding. "Adjust filters," the commander ordered, and then they saw it. From the blackness emerged a shadow. No, thousands of them. Silent shapes gliding from behind the void, their hulls darker than night itself. No heat, no light, no signals. It was the dark matter fleet. Human ships, enormous and elegant, floating without a single sound. They absorbed light, bending it around them, making them invisible until they chose to appear. One by one, the alien commanders fell silent. Their scanners failed to measure the ship's size or number. The data looped endlessly, showing only one word: unknown. On the bridge of the lead council flagship, Admiral Corvin gritted his teeth. "What are those things?" A technician stammered. "Dark matter signatures, sir." "They're using impossible energy readings," Corvin snarled. "Open a channel. They will hear us." A moment later, his voice echoed into the void. "This is Admiral Corvin of the Galactic Council. Humanity, you are ordered to stand down. Deactivate your fleet and prepare for inspection." The fleet waited. Seconds passed. No reply. Then a single voice answered. "Calm human, female. This is Commander Lyra Holden, Terran Defense Fleet." Corvin leaned forward. "You are in violation of galactic law." The voice interrupted him, steady and cold. "Galactic law? You mean the law written by those who enslaved half the galaxy? The law that called us animals when we first reached the stars?" Corvin hesitated. "You misunderstand." "No," she said. "You misunderstood us." The line went dead. Suddenly the stars disappeared. Every alien ship's sensors shut down at once. Alarms screamed across the fleet. The navigation system spun out of control. For a moment, even light itself seemed to vanish. "Emergency power," Corvin shouted. "What is happening?" No one could answer. When their systems finally flickered back on, every screen showed the same image. The human fleet had surrounded them. Massive ships hung in perfect silence, forming a circle of darkness. They didn't aim weapons. They didn't need to. A human transmission appeared on every channel. It wasn't a voice this time, it was a heartbeat. A slow, deep sound that echoed through every ship, through every mind. Then Commander Lyra's voice returned. "You came to Earth to demand surrender," she said. "Now you stand in the presence of something greater than fear." Her words were calm, but they cut through the void like a blade. "Humanity does not conquer. We endure, we adapt, and we remember." A council ship panicked and fired a plasma round at one of the human vessels. The blast never reached its target. It simply vanished, swallowed by the void. "Impossible!" shouted an alien officer. Commander Lyra's voice grew softer. "You have seen your weapons fail. You have seen the dark between stars bend to our will. Now understand this. The human flagship slowly turned, revealing the mark of Earth on its hull, glowing faintly in blue. We did not build these ships to destroy. We built them to ensure no one would ever try to destroy us again." The galactic fleet didn't move. No one dared to speak. Even Admiral Corvin stood frozen. "If we return fire," he whispered. His second-in-command shook her head. "We won't survive it." Lyra's final words echoed through their minds. "The day you feared has come. The day humanity stepped out of your shadow." Then, without another sound, the human fleet began to fade, ship by ship, dissolving into darkness. The last thing the aliens saw was the faint blue light of Earth's emblem, glowing like a ghost in the void, and then they were gone. For hours, the Council fleet drifted in silence. Every sensor dead, every weapon cold. When systems finally returned, the stars seemed different, dimmer, quieter. The Admiral looked at his officers. "Report, sir," one whispered. "It's not just us." All across the network. "The galaxy has gone silent." Corvin stared out the viewport, his voice barely a whisper. "What have we done?" Far away, hidden beyond a dying star, Commander Lyra watched the fading signals. Her ships remained invisible, cloaked in their dark matter shroud. "Message complete," her officer said. Lyra nodded slowly. "Then the galaxy has heard us." She turned toward the void, her voice calm and final. This was their warning. That day would be remembered across 1,000 worlds as the unveiling, the day humanity showed its true face to the galaxy, and the galaxy fell silent in awe and fear. When the galactic fleet returned from Sol, the universe had changed. 50,000 ships had entered human space. Only 49,000 came back, and not one of them could explain what had happened. Every ship's black box was blank. Their scanners recorded nothing but static. Their captains spoke of darkness that bent around them, of voices that spoke without sound, of stars that disappeared, and then silence. The Galactic Council demanded answers, but there were none to give. The recordings ended with the same image, a human ship, black as the void, with the glowing blue symbol of Earth. For the first time in millennia, the Council had no words. In the high chamber of Verelion Prime, the delegates sat in absolute stillness. The room that had once been filled with shouts and arrogance was now quiet enough to hear the hum of the air systems. Councillor Vornak spoke at last, his voice trembling. They didn't fire. They didn't threaten, they just stood there. The silver-eyed elder closed his eyes, because they didn't need to. Another delegate whispered, "How did they build such power? We have studied the void for centuries." And yet, the elder interrupted softly, they listened to it. They learned from it. They became part of it. The hall fell silent again. Every empire in the galaxy had always believed humans were reckless, emotional, and naive. Now they realized the truth, that emotion had become their greatest strength. Because only a species that had lived through endless war, loss, and survival could create something born from darkness and make it obey. Meanwhile, far away, Earth was peaceful. There were no celebrations, no parades, no announcements. Humanity didn't cheer for victory. They prepared for what came next. In the command center of the Terran Defense Fleet, Commander Lyra Holden stood before a hologram of the galaxy. Red marks, enemy fleets, had vanished from the map. Trade routes reopened. Borders shifted quietly. Her communications officer approached. Council fleets are retreating, Commander. Some systems are broadcasting surrender codes. Others are just silent. Lyra nodded slowly. Let them be silent. Silence is better than blood, the officer hesitated. Do we respond? No, she said. The message has already been sent. She turned to the viewing window, where the planet Earth glowed softly below. For the first time in centuries, the stars above it looked peaceful. In her underground lab beneath Antarctica, Dr. Ilara Voss watched the data from the fleet. Every reading confirmed what she already knew. The dark matter engines were stable, fully integrated and undetectable by any alien technology. Her assistant approached, eyes wide. It worked. They can't fight us. They can't even find us. Ilara smiled faintly. That was never the goal. Then why, Doctor? Why go this far? She looked at the black sphere pulsing in its containment field. Because peace built on weakness never lasts, she said softly. We built this fleet so no one would ever force us to kneel again. The assistant nodded quietly. What happens now? Ilara turned toward the screen showing the galaxy map. Now they will think twice before raising their voices. The council spoke for 1,000 years. Today they learned the value of silence. Across alien worlds, people whispered in fear and wonder. Merchants cancelled routes near human space. Armies stood down without orders. In dark bars and crowded markets, stories spread. Stories of ships that moved without light, of human voices that spoke inside the mind, of weapons that turned energy to dust. But the most terrifying story was this. The humans didn't attack. They didn't conquer. They just appeared, and the galaxy fell quiet. For many species, that was worse than war. On the distant moon of Chorus, an alien scholar wrote in his journal, "When the stars dimmed, we felt fear. But it was not the fear of death. It was the fear of something greater, the fear of those who have seen the void and made it their ally." He paused before writing one final line. The humans did not end the war. They ended the noise. Back on the bridge of HMS Horizon, Lyra Holden received a transmission, not from the Council, but from a small colony far beyond Earth's influence. It was a single message, simple and uncertain. Is it true? Did the galaxy surrender? Lyra stared at the words for a long moment before replying. No, she said quietly. They just listened. Her officer looked up. And what if they stop listening? Lyra smiled faintly, her gaze lost in the endless dark. Then, she said, we'll remind them what silence sounds like. For the next 7 standard days, no transmissions came from any alien empire. No trade signals, no diplomatic calls, no patrol routes. The galaxy's networks, once full of noise, politics, and lies, were empty. The historians would later call it the day the galaxy went silent. But to humanity, it was something else entirely. It was the day the universe finally heard them. And in that silence, humanity's voice became eternal. Years passed. The galaxy changed, though not in the way anyone expected. There were no wars now, not because of peace treaties, but because of memory. Every empire remembered the day the stars dimmed. They remembered the black ships, the quiet voice, and the moment when every weapon became useless. It had been called many names since then. The day of silence, the dark reveal, the human moment. But no matter the name, everyone knew what it meant. It was the day humanity showed the galaxy that power did not always roar. Sometimes it whispered. On Verelion Prime, the Galactic Council still met, but it was not the same. The great chamber that once echoed with shouting was now soft and cautious. Every decision began with the same question. Will this anger the humans? Councillor Vornak, older and slower now, spoke rarely. When he did, the others listened carefully. One day a young delegate asked him, "Do you think they will ever return?" Vornak's eyes darkened. They never left. They just don't need to be seen. The hall fell silent, and no one dared to argue. In the far reaches of space, near the edge of a dying sun, the Terran Dark Fleet remained. Invisible, waiting, watching, Commander Lyra Holden still led them. Her hair was silver now, but her eyes were sharp, calm and unafraid. She stood on the bridge of the HMS Horizon, looking at a field of stars that no alien dared to enter. Her communications officer approached quietly. "Commander, still no activity from the Council. The galaxy is—" "Quiet," Lyra nodded. "Good, let them rebuild. Let them think we are gone. Do you ever think we went too far?" he asked softly. Lyra turned to the window where space shimmered with dark energy. "They feared us because they never tried to understand us," she said. "We showed them the truth, and truth always feels like fear to those who live in lies." The officer said nothing more. He just watched as she rested her hand on the console, where the Terran emblem glowed faintly. Far below on Earth, life had become peaceful once again. Cities were quiet, oceans clean, skies bright. Children grew up hearing stories about the day the stars stopped. Some believed it was a myth, a legend. Others whispered that their ancestors had once stood against the entire galaxy and won, without firing a single shot. Dr. Ilara Voss had retired long ago, but her name was still spoken with respect. In the museums of New Geneva, her words were engraved in silver. "We did not build to conquer the stars. We built to remind them that even in darkness humanity shines." Beyond the borders of known space, travelers spoke of strange encounters, shadows moving between stars, whispers in dead systems, echoes of human voices in empty frequencies. No one ever saw a human ship again. Yet every empire's scanners sometimes picked up a faint signal, a heartbeat, slow and steady, then gone. To some it was superstition, to others a warning, to a few it was hope. 1,000 years later, a new alien explorer recorded this in his journal. "They say the humans were once small, fragile creatures of blue and green worlds. But they rose, and when the galaxy mocked them, they reached into the dark and made it their own. Now they are part of it. Invisible, eternal." He paused, then added one final line. "Perhaps they are still here among the stars listening. And if they are, I hope they find us worthy." In the endless void, far beyond the reach of any empire, the dark matter fleet drifted silently. Its ships were asleep, hidden within folds of warped space. Inside the command vessel, ancient systems flickered back to life. Commander Lyra's recorded voice echoed through the halls, calm, timeless, human. "If you are hearing this, it means the stars are noisy again. Remember what we learned. We do not seek war. We seek balance. And when the galaxy forgets, we will remind them the transmission ended." The ship's dark engines stirred, humming softly like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. And in that moment, across the silent galaxy, sensors trembled just once, as if space itself had remembered something. For ages to come, the galaxy would tell stories of the beings who tamed the dark. Some called them gods, others ghosts. But among the few who still dared to look toward the silent side of the stars, they spoke a single word with quiet respect: humans.